Okay, awesome.
Cool.
Hi, today we have Karel Verhoeven. Am I pronounced your surname correctly?
Verhoeven, yes.
Verhoeven.
Yeah.
Awesome. Karel's the head data scientist at Lulalend. We also have Sebastian, a client partner at WhereIsMyTransport, and Ajibola Lawal, one of our learners from Nigeria. So
Awesome.
Tell us a bit more about yourself, Karel. Like exactly what is your like journey towards getting to where you are currently?
So I mean, I started out studying mathematics, to finishing up honors degree in South Africa. Honors degree is like, I would say, similar to just a degree in Europe or so. But doing my honors degree in operations research, which is mathematical optimization, building heuristics, stuff like that. I then moved on. That was like early, like that was about 2012, about there. And at that point, the concept data science only really started pitching up in South Africa. So the people were like, "Hey, do you want to be a data scientist?" And I was like, what's that?" And they're like, "No. What you studied is perfect for this. We need people to start doing data science. We don't really know, but if you're like, we reckon mathematicians will be the best people for this field." And then at that point I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. Like I thought I was going to be a teacher or something. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, so that was the first time I really saw a field that really perfectly fit what I studied, where there wasn't a lot of information available on during university time regarding what you can do with, say, a mathematics or an analytics or a statistics degree afterwards, which I believe has changed a lot nowadays. But so from there, I moved to a company called Jumo. That was the first company I joined. They're situated in Cape Town, but they operate in Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, Zambia, quite a few countries in Africa. They recently expanded to Middle East and Asia. When I joined, it was really just a startup. That's why they were like, "Hey, we need somebody to come do data science, do credit scoring," and I don't know what it is, but I decided that's a cool idea. We were 10 people about. Johan Bassini, and he started the thing. From there, we really started focusing on what is machine learning and what we can do with it. We very quickly came to the point that we can really improve credit algorithms. At that time, being very old-fashioned, if you can call it that. There's a set way of doing credit scoring, and we realized that no, but we can use machine learning to improve this methodology quite a lot. I stayed there for about 2 years. Also, fraud detection. Sorry, fraud detection was a very nice one to start solving. I stayed there for about 2 years. Then I moved to OLX. OLX is also like that's a classifieds app, operating in about 40 countries in the world. Also in Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria, South Africa, so on. That was really nice. Traveled a lot with them. Went to various countries in Africa to go see the markets, look at how they operate. And there, I mean, the big challenges there was price point optimization. With like a classified ad, you might have like, okay, let's say it costs you R5, maybe $1, like to make it a more generic currency, $1 to place an ad on a car, or $1 to place an ad on like the fact that you are selling napkins. Like the proportion of the thing you sell can't be too high. So then there was a really nice price point optimization and elasticity, a problem to solve there regarding what is the optimal price point for a certain category. For instance, cars, you might even charge $10 or $20 for a person. He would be willing to pay quite a lot in order to get his ad to the top, in order to sell his car. from there, moved to Superbalist. That was where I had my first lead data scientist role. That is a fashion company, quite like Zalando in Europe, Zando. Yeah, like so fashion e-commerce. Making a breakthrough in South Africa. At that point, I started up the data science team. So they really didn't have anything. So then going like, okay, cool, I'll start up your team. And that was the first time they first placed me in the marketing team, because like people at this point also didn't really understand what is the value that we can drive with data science and even just data engineering. Even BI, like this whole open world for them. And they placed me in the marketing team, and I very soon I went to the CTO, Brad, at that point, and I told him, look here, I think data science needs to fall into the tech team. We can really do a lot with fashion e-commerce. We can build recommendation algorithms. Various recommendation algorithms. We can build propensity models. There's just so much we can do if we fall into the tech team. We can expose APIs for the tech team to integrate with and really create get a lot of value out of data science. And he agreed. We talked to the CEO. I moved into the tech team, and I started hiring a few data scientists, a data engineer, and just an analyst. We started building out, and we really started going with the recommendation algorithms, which was a whole lot of fun. Also built a CRM engine, which we called the single customer view, which to drive customer retention. And so this was more of a data engineering project where we like how can we get data structured for marketing people who might not be as analytical as your average data scientist or your average analyst, in order for them to get a great interpretation of data in order to optimize their communications with customers. After I've been at Superbalist for about 2 years, I felt my job there was done. I'm much more of a starter than a manager. So after a while, it really becomes a management game, which I'm not that interested as a role typically in. So one of the founders at Lulalend contacted me, Neil, and Lulalend, it does financing for small and medium enterprises in South Africa, unbanked typically. So companies who need maybe running cash like one man companies who needs running cash in order to buy stock and sell it again, that kind of stuff. Loans are typically from 6 months to 12 months, and it's really for the unbanked, and trying to create value out of, like you'll have this cream of the crop guys who will always be able to go to the bank, but then you've got a very big sector of businesses who the bank kind of ignores, and it makes it hard for them to expand their business or really get stock in order to build that, or to build their business further. I built out the data science team, also hiring a few guys in engineer. At Lulalend, we're doing everything. We're doing the BI, we're doing data engineering. We're exposing APIs to the dev team for credit models. So we're building the credit models, the algorithms. So it's really like across the board data function being centralized into one team. Yeah, that's where I'm now, and we're busy really trying to figure out South Africa before moving into other countries. What we've realized, obviously, from other companies in the past, is it's very difficult to skin the African continent the same way. Like you think you've got one country sorted, and you just go to another country, and you just realize that the culture is different, the way people think is different, and it just doesn't work like perhaps a Western European launch where you've got like this set of 100 or 200 million people really living in or their culture is in a very similar, perhaps now maybe drinking wine versus drinking beer, or stuff like that, but you've got like this they've got, everyone is in middle class. It's like this, where in Africa you've got you go to Nigeria, for instance, and there's trust issues all of a sudden, just between just like a undertone of trust issues also. And yeah, I see Ajibola enjoying that. And then you go to Kenya, and you've got perhaps like, if you're in Nairobi, there's like heavy traffic, so you can't just like do e-commerce like you do e-commerce in South Africa. It takes, if you're in Nairobi, between 4 and 6 in the afternoon, you're sitting with a hour's drive to do a few kilometers, 3 or 4 kilometers. So you really have these different nuances. So you can't just like take your product from whichever country you are and go like, okay, let's rinse and repeat that for another country in Africa. It just doesn't work like that. The continent is too complex, and that's why we're now at the point where let's just solve South Africa first before moving on to a next country and try and figure out how that works.
Awesome stuff. That was like a very cool in-depth dive of like what you've been up to since university, and really interesting journey, I guess. And I mean, it's interesting to note that you spent most of your career on the continent in South Africa, and there obviously was still opportunities for you to learn quite a bit, and also for you to contribute quite a bit to the local tech space. You mentioned that you started when you're a starter rather than a manager, and that's what you prefer to do. How would you say, and what would you say was the most challenging aspect of building out a data science team in Cape Town, seeing as you've had many experiences doing that over the years, and most recently, obviously, with Lulalend?
I would say recruiting is really the most difficult thing to get like people who, so the market changed a bit. So when we, like 5 or 6, 7, maybe even 10 years ago, if you were a data scientist, you'd get a job immediately. It was like, okay, cool, you've got your job. Yeah, you studied it, here's your job. Where now it shifted a bit, where as a junior data scientist, you have to work a bit harder. You have to, like, you're in a more of a competitive market. Also, it not necessarily, because if you've got the right skills, you'll definitely get the job. But there are so many people at the moment advertising themselves as data scientists, and jobs out there that describes themselves as data science jobs, which it really isn't. Which means that it takes a lot of energy and effort to filter through people who does tick the tools and expertise that you'd want, especially at the junior level, where you're getting people coming out of institutions, and then you need to build trust in these institutions, build in that the people that comes through them has the right skills in order to take on a proper job. So I would definitely say recruitment has become quite a tricky thing because of the vagueness of data science.
Yeah, and amongst all the fluff and like obviously all the I guess the ambiguity within the definition of the role itself in the market, what's the most prominent and what's the most the best practice tools and like techniques that you use to filter that? Like, I mean, what have you found most effective in your experience?
I feel Python is definitely, looks, a lot of people can code in Python, but conducting a proper Python test is for me almost the most important one. So typical questions you'd find in like a computer science course rather than a data science or a analytics course. So perhaps just like reverse an array, that kind of things. Python questions just to get them going. HackerRank has really cool questions and where you can choose Python, and so using HackerRank as a nice template of questions and difficult problems to solve with Python functions. I feel that if a person is sufficient in Python, I feel the rest comes quickly. I mean, SQL, I feel, is something I can teach anybody. Not anybody, but like to a big extent, I can teach you SQL. You don't need to be the best SQL developer to be the best data scientist, or you just need to understand SQL. Where within Python, I mean, there it becomes tricky because now we're looking at background, but you'd always want to ask, that the Titanic problem on Kaggle, that's a nice one that I typically give people, especially junior people, to go do as a take-home project. So I just go like, you can use all the resources you want to, which means you can basically copy and paste this project if you want to. But that's a really nice one for me, because there you've got like a lot of thinking. You've got the data analysis, you've got the data wrangling or data prep, you've got a machine learning problem, you've got a how do we measure this machine learning problem? Like, are we going to use just accuracy? How does the person think? Are we using ROC curve? How is this person actually thinking about data science? And also the insights that he just generates in the start, like, cool, there's a lot of fields, there's a y-axis being whether a person died or not on Titanic. Just looking at what kind of insights is this person bringing. It's like a really nice project there that I like to give a person. If they can, out of that, you get to see a lot about the person's or the candidate's how hard this candidate is willing to break down a project.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, that's really interesting, and I guess the guys can unpack that, like the technical side of that question. I'm sure Ajibola would like to know a bit more, as do I. But I just really wanted to not to put you on the spot, and obviously you have a bit of bias from the Stellenbosch history and studying at Stellenbosch. I know the universities are very competitive in the Western Cape. Where would you say the best candidates come from in your experience, using the sample group that you've been exposed to so far?
Yeah, that is good. So I mean, naturally I do trust a Stellenbosch University graduate. But I mean, I would typically say, like, when I look at the pool of people that I typically get to see is University of Harare. So there's like a strong Zimbabwean element that comes through in South Africa, where you've got like serious Zimbabweans coming through the ranks to come do data science. It's obviously a neighboring country, South Africa, for Zimbabwe, so it's an easy move for them to go there. And then I would say there's a nice long tail education and recruitment company in South Africa called We Think Code. That's like a nice grooming session for the guys, because it's not data science, but they go deep. They go into, like, they start with C and they go through web development and everything. So you just get like a well-rounded junior person coming through We Think Code. That's a really nice one. And then the universities do deliver. Not all of them. I do find, for instance, and that's something I feel PhD people need to look out for, is that your PhD graduates, when they start working, they tend to have a lot of attention to detail, and taking that super academical knowledge that they've got and translating that into the workplace very often leads to their initial year or two adapting to the pace and going, like, telling themselves, like, okay, but you don't have to have you don't have to have this 100% project. Like, the company would like to get something out in 1 month or in 2 weeks, and we don't have 6 months to build this thing. So I do love a PhD student because they come with a lot of knowledge, but like I like this, like, so it's such a broad thing, as I mentioned, from like long tail recruitment and education platforms all the way to like university. There's value and resources to be extracted because they all get to teach very different. They all get learned different ways of approaching the problem, and a lot of times you do need your practical guys to come in first and really help, like, build out the infrastructure, build the stuff before you get your very big academical guys to come do like deep machine learning research. If that answers the question.
Yes, indeed, it really does. Emmanuel and Ajibola, do you guys have anything to add to that? I guess from the gradient boost side.
So my question is, do you have any bias between academic people who came through the traditional channels from university and people who are self-taught or came through a data science bootcamp, for example? Is there a particular bias that you have towards either of those?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not really. It really depends what role I'm applying for. Not applying, hiring for. So when I want somebody who can hit the ground running, I do like the bootcamp style guys more. They've got a lot of theory to typically catch up on in the long run, but they typically they come on, they join your company, they know all their tools from a junior point of view, they know all their tools, they've done stuff, they've been around the block. A person who's had a good internship is always a great one as well. I like to also give internships because I think it gives you, like, if you can commit to like 3 months or 6 months of internship, you like, then as the hiring manager, I've got first dibs on a potential star in the making when it comes to data science. So it really depends. I think what happens is your university people will come in earlier on your pure data science and machine learning engineer side, where the bootcamp and external people comes in through a more practical, okay, cool, you're gonna help me code, but you could, like, let's go data analytics, data engineering, data science, like they're more broadly groomed for the job. So it's typically easier to start off with a person like that and then move to the university person, but both really have their roles, both have their positions in an initial team. And I feel as the guys improve and evolve in their careers, they cross over and everything's for everyone. But from a junior point of view, like just graduate, I would say that the boot camp, like, I don't know if you know the company Springboard, which I feel is a lot like Gradient Boost in a way. Like, if you've got your Springboard guys, they typically already proven that they can do hands-on work, and that makes it really easy to integrate them into the workplace.
So your role involves a lot of mentoring junior data scientists, and you mentor at Springboard too. What challenge do you encounter mentoring someone who's aspiring to be a data scientist? What do you like? What challenges do you encounter typically with that relationship?
Sometimes I feel the guys start off highly ambitious, which especially with the kind of projects that they aspire to do, which is very difficult in the initial phase to go like, okay, cool, but I want to build this like this, let's say, NLP algorithm in the first 3 months of my course, and I'm like, no, wait. Let's just go through the basics. And so you do get students who gets quite frustrated with me telling them that it's not the time yet. Like, you need to take one thing at a time, and let's start with binary classification. Let's just get you through these things, and then we can get to the stuff that you read and hear about later. But let's just work through all the basics. We need to understand regression. We need to understand binary and multinomial classification. We need to understand how to transform data. We need to understand how to analyze data. So to ensure that the student stays grounded and understands that in order for them to become a pro, they need to build the fundamentals and understand the basics very well. And then, I mean, from there, the world is their oyster. They can go on and do what they want. Ajibola.
Yeah, what would you say the three key things anyone looking for a junior role should focus on building and improving on?
I think there's now with the research. So I think machine learning is important. I don't think it's not as important as it used to be. But understanding and building it, just being able to understand the models and build the models is really important. You do get a lot of algorithms online now, you know, like data robot and so on that kind of brute forces their way through your machine learning algorithms. It does cost expensive, so just having that knowledge, just having that machine learning knowledge, and being able to give a company a propensity model is just a really a great thing to be able to do. I believe data engineering, just like being able to structure data, understanding DBs, understanding automations. So understanding the Linux server and going like, how am I going to do it? Am I going to do cron jobs and like pull data from SQL, do a transformation and push data again, that kind of stuff. So or maybe at the next level, should be I'm going to build Kafka publishers and Kafka consumers and start doing this whole thing real time. That's like the data engineering component, I believe, is really important. And the third one would say like data analysis is important, but I do believe a very big one is communication and understanding and learning the skill that gives you the opportunity to or gives you the ability to explain to the business what it is that you're doing and what it is why you are adding value, and explaining to people who doesn't necessarily understand or care about analytics why what you're doing is important and how it adds value to the company. So that soft skill, I believe, is very important to be able to communicate with business.
Okay. So moving along to
so
sorry.
Yeah, you go. I'll ask after.
You go first. Let's go. Sorry.
Okay. In your work with Lulalend, like for people who are unbanked, what were your biggest challenges in deciding what data points are useful in creating a credit score that is relevant?
Yeah. Without giving too much away regarding the logic of Lulalend. I mean, there is a few things that you want to know about these people initially. So knowing who the directors is, if you can get just like a light checks on the directors, you get some information there. There's also like outside features like what browser they're actually browsing on, or what kind of cell phone they have. Like we can track what phone they have. Maybe an iPhone user. I mean, counter to believe they might be spending too much money on various products where they could have bought an Android, So it does. That's just a joke, but telling like.
So clearly, I'll get a loan with you guys then. I mean, I use Android, so Android.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bit more to that, but yeah, no, like, so I think like a little bit into transactions data, if we can get any form of wallet or to just see how this person operates with money, we will build features from that. If we've got just like some stuff like how many people, self-claimed stats, like how many people do you employ, that kind of thing, that it does. That's all the kind of features that we then push into the model to create alternative scoring algorithm. Then also some psychometric information that we ask the client for. So maybe just like a 10 question. Maybe sometimes you've got somebody from overseas who's in South Africa for the first time, and you really can't find anything out about this person. Then you like, okay, cool, no, but here is the psychometric test that we've developed that you can use in order to make up for the data that's unattainable about you.
Okay. As a follow-up to that, so like in building your models, like how hard did it conflict with reality, and how much did you have to, how many evolutions did it go through till you thought you had the right source?
Yeah, so I mean, we're still busy improving, and still not happy, to be honest. Like, it's very difficult. Like, to get a great algorithm through is with this kind of model is quite difficult. I would say, like, we've been at it now for like 18 months. We've got stuff through. We've got good models that does give some idea that gives us ideas on whether to give the loan or not. But we do have various models running, not just one, and all of these models. So in order to mitigate risk, we've got various models. So before there was before the machine learning algorithm started assessing, we had humans doing it. So then we've got one algorithm training on whether a loan went into arrears. We've got another algorithm training on what would a human have said. So we take their historical yes, no's, or maybes and train on that to create a human machine learning from a human machine learning point of view. So we've got various algorithms in order to mitigate that uncertainty and risk that we're taking because of the fact that it could go any way with this. So I would it still goes on. It's not easy. Maybe if you've got something easy would have been, like trying, or maybe it's easy trying to predict gender from a person's first name. That might be easier, than predicting risk based on the features that you've got. So a lot of effort and attention goes into building these algorithms.
Okay, so so what approaches do you take to try to get it?
I'm sorry, you broke up slightly.
Oh, sorry. I said, what steps have you taken, or do you constantly try to take to protected against bias?
I didn't hear your question again, but what I understood is what steps are we taking in order to improve the algorithms and still protect it against bias, something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, to protect against
cool.
bias. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a very good one, especially because you've got this historical analyst teams that comes in and tells you what features really works well and what doesn't. So I mean so if I understand bias in this context, you mean human bias versus algorithms bias. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you'll get a lot of analysts always say, yeah, but this feature really will work well, and this will do well, and this will do well. So my rule of thumb with that is I will always trust an expert when he says something will work well, will be correlated. But I will never trust the expert if he tells me it's uncorrelated and this feature will give me no evidence. Because then I'm like, no, but how do you didn't prove this. This is your gut feel coming through. So typically business will tell you, no, but we've tried this feature a long time ago and this feature doesn't do anything about towards a loan. And you're like, no, but like, you don't know that this feature might interact with another feature and something great could come out. So it's not necessarily so in order to protect against human bias, all features that goes into the algorithm does get tested for significance. We do, or at least gets at least thought about for significance before using in the algorithm. Then, I mean, regarding the bias for the what the analyst says, the model number 2 that runs on an analyst answer, that is obviously a super biased model towards what the analysts have said and that's why that model can never run in as the primary algorithm, because that model effectively it can make any mistake that all the analysts has made in the past before that, because of the fact that it will say yes for a particular thing which perhaps shouldn't have been given, for a loan that shouldn't have been given. So in order to protect bias in that sense, we've got the parallel algorithms running in order to, or the cascading algorithms almost, in order to mitigate that. And in order to protect feature bias, we've got that's just pure scientific. We do like you can do, you just make sure, look at interactions, so on. And then, I mean, when it comes to algorithm bias, which is another thing, is when you, just to answer all bias related questions, what we do is we'll run, so we've got credit companies do like very transparent models, and that's something that's very difficult if you want to go like if you really want to get some nice variant optimized variant models which you try and decline with some bias. So what we do is we've got a logistic regression algorithm that we run on all our features in order to explain something to them. But what the algorithm that's actually in production is an XGBoost algorithm where we get to play with a lot of hyperparameters and just make sure that we really get the best optimal solution out of our data. Sorry, I know that's an over-answered question, but
thank you.
Yeah.
It was perfect. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Awesome. So we're looking at the trends in loan applications over the last couple of months. Are there sectors that appear to be harder hit by this pandemic, just out of curiosity, in South Africa specifically?
Yeah, and I mean, definitely in South Africa, but I'm sure I can speak for quite a lot of countries that's sitting with similar issues. Is tourism is dead. I think it's quite thought-provoking to think that there's these massive industries that's not making money, and it trickles down into the economy, right? It's not just the people working in tourism that is feeling it. It's from people working in tourism where they're spending their money. Those people are also feeling the effects of this. But typically, tourism, restaurants, typically like all the service industry sectors is really felt the burn in South Africa as you like, I mean, restaurants, bars, shebeens, hotels, event places, those kind of things has really taken a toll and hasn't recovered yet. Earlier, some industries that took its toll was like, hairdressers, the stuff that very early on in COVID, typically countries locked these industries up to just go like, no, we're not sure how this works, what can we do? So typically, hairdressers and that kind of these kind of nail salons and beauty parlors, they really got hit hard. But as people are starting to understand social distancing and where it's okay and how you can live with it, those industries I'm finding are opening up again, where it's really your tourism and service industries that's struggling the hardest.
And from your team's perspective, what are the biggest challenges or the biggest priorities going forward, given what's happening in the world at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a massive priority at the moment to stabilize some economies. I think you've got Africa sitting on like a few countries that's on the brink of going into failed states. There's really a lot of foreign investment needed. I think without trying to put China on to criticize China too much here, but I think Africa needs to try and stay clear from taking up loans from China. I see too many countries doing it. China bought a piece of the in Zambia, there by the Victoria Falls. They recently bought a piece of land there, the country, and to put up a Ferris wheel. So, I mean, this is Africa and its beauty and its nature, and they're putting up a Ferris wheel in the middle there. Okay, that's not the economical issues we've got, but I mean, yeah, like that's like I feel Africa needs to focus on stability at the moment. I think there's a lot in free fall at the moment. The whole world, as a matter of fact, is in quite an uncertain time, and Africa being quite a variant continent with countries not always as stable as you'd like it to be. I think a lot needs to be focused on being able to serve the poor people. That's basically serve the underserved people, the medical serving them with medical access to medicine, especially in a time of Corona, and also access to food and education, which I think is the first thing that people drop. So I think a lot of companies are going to pivot into maybe not like pivot, but start up and start addressing these very particular fields in a new way, like you guys are doing with education. So like trying to get people access to education in alternative phases as the traditional university method needed to be, and so that you could do this and this, but here is all these things, and as these more of these companies that can give additional access to medicine. So I don't know if you know like Health Force, and there's quite a few of these now where we don't need to be seeing the GP anymore or the specialist anymore. It's all over VoIP. So you walk into a nurse's room at a pharmacy, she calls the GP. The GP's like, okay, no, but I can see this is actually a bigger problem. He calls the eye specialist, and and you all the time you were just at a nurse, which is great for a continent like Africa that needs better access to these kind of things. Is, I would believe, education and healthcare.
Awesome stuff. And I agree with you completely. There's a lot of issues that we're facing currently on the continent. And if we don't keep our finger on the pulse and keep our wits about us in terms of just making sure that we protect our scarce resources and also just look after each other. What do you think, how do you think actually we can get to a place where we have more professionals, specifically in the data science field? As you mentioned, the data science field has a lot to offer when it comes to solving these problems. What are the soft skills that we need these professionals to have? You mentioned earlier communication and also patience when you're obviously embarking on the journey of learning and understanding the depths and the breadths of data science. What other skills do you think is important for the students who are listening to this podcast is important to have?
Yeah, so I mean, adding some more skills, I would say, as an alternative after you've done, perhaps you've finished your analytics and machine learning parts of the thing are nice. If you want to go further with programming, I would strongly recommend like backend web development, just to understand API integrations and how you could. So for instance, let's take something like healthcare, right? So okay, now we want to send a picture to, let's say we don't have a doctor, so but we've got enough pictures of skin irritations to know which skin irritations is a skin cancer. That's just a very hypothetical thing, but you don't have the budget and you don't have anything to use a proper online image recognizer. So you need to build this thing yourself, but you also need to productionize it yourself. Then that thing, the productionization, really lies behind software development and backend engineering. So I believe there's a strong, if you want to go on your own, like if you want to have everything, I think backend engineering is a really good and valuable skill to have. You can use it for your data engineering. You can expose your APIs and so on with that. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to go into specific packages, but like the one I can mention that I feel is really great for a Python developer, which your typical data scientist is Python and R. With Python, Django is a really great backend framework, MVC type framework. In order to that's something really nice to learn. It's also got a great database, ORM. So Object Relationship Manager. Can't remember what ORM is, but yeah. So it's got a great tool for that you can use as a standalone in order to build your databases and design your databases. So that's really nice with the hard skills. And then with adding a soft skill or two, I would say really and I'm coming back to communication, and it's storytelling, being able to take, again, like even if it's not verbally, being able to communicate your insights to the business. It's just, I can't emphasize how important it is. A business person, like I don't know, a guy in marketing and a guy, and a retailer sits with you, and you can't just tell them your insights from an analytical point of view. You really need to be able to translate that and working on those skills, data storytelling skills, I feel is a very important soft skill as well.
Yeah, that's definitely come through quite a few of the episodes that we've done. That communication is critical and it's key, and especially the scenario mentioned when we're looking at other departments, communicating with other departments and speaking to other departments. It's quite important for us to do that. Ajibola, you had a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So with Zalando, like, what challenges did you have with trying to communicate the value that a data science team was going to bring to the larger company?
Okay. Yeah. So at Superbalist now, or at Lulalend?
Yes, I believe.
Yeah,
Superbalist, I believe. Yes.
Okay. Cool. So I think the most important there was to get buy-in from people who you need buy-in from, right? So getting your buddy on board doesn't help that much, because like your buddy's just sitting there and is like, yes, it's definitely a good idea, but like they're gonna want us to work on this. So that's cool. I mean, having a beer with your buddy and telling him your idea is great, but like that's not where you get your sign off from, right? So you really need to go talk to the people who care about the metrics. So if you've got something like let's take a recommendation algorithm. What are we trying to achieve with a recommendation algorithm? We're trying to get a person. So let's say there's two nice recommendation algorithms. One would be people who bought this also bought that, right? So it's like that's like a typical Netflix recommended for you algorithm that you've got here. It actually if you want to, if for any listeners, if you want to do some research, that's called a collaborative filtering algorithm, which really works like that. And then let's say our other one is a product similar to this. So you've got a gene and you want to display more genes. Okay, but I mean, cool, sure, whatever. But now the question is, what are you trying to achieve? Why are you doing this? And the answer here is, well, discoverability. And along with discoverability, it's conversion rate. So because if the conversion rate, if people get what they want, the conversion rate's going to improve. If the conversion rate improves, you multiply that with your traffic, and multiply that with your average order value, that's your revenue. So that's a core metric in your. So that's an easy thing to justify. If you justify that, if you can justify, look here, it's going to increase the bottom line. It's going to increase revenue. And that's what the company wants then. So if you can use like almost like your economical deduction to go like, because of this will happen. So because we're improving discoverability, people will probably find what they're looking for easier. Because they find what they're looking for easier, conversion rate increase. If conversion rate increases, number of purchases per day increase, because conversion rate does. Also, perhaps if people, like maybe if with people who bought this, or maybe a third algorithm could be frequently bought together, right? So now we've got our, and how do we justify this? That we can say, okay, no, but frequently bought together will probably increase your basket size, your average order value. So all of these, if you can get that logically structured, it becomes quite easy to convince the people who needs convincing to get something done. If you can't get to there, then you have to also ask yourself, is the project you're trying to push for the right project, or should you focus on something else?
Awesome stuff. Yeah, that's really interesting. I really enjoy learning about your journey, and also about some of the challenges and experiences you've had at all the companies that you've worked at in South Africa, of course, and in Cape Town. But it would be really interesting for us, and also for the listeners, I guess, to understand from your perspective, what is the one thing you wish that you had known before you started on this journey that would have helped you greatly? Maybe some of our listeners have similar challenges, and then you can share that, and then I guess we'll do one round of questions, like remaining questions from the team, and then I guess we can wrap up, because we can definitely have a discussion for the rest of the afternoon, because it's just so interesting speaking to you, and also just like unpacking the various challenges that the industry faces. But if you could just share a bit about that, and then we'll do one last round of questions.
Yeah, Yeah, that's a difficult question, or one to think about a lot. I think there's a lot that I wish I knew before I started, but I would say the one thing from a skills point of view that I wish I knew was to give, like, I should be giving more attention earlier on to like proper object oriented programming, to get clean code that integrates with tech teams, that integrates with development. As a data scientist, initially, very early on, I used to write code very script-like, which is not which doesn't translate well to your peers that needs to review it, that kind of stuff. So if there's one thing, it would have been like focus more on computer science. Yeah, just get that computer science under the belt early on.
That's really interesting, and I guess that's going to resonate with a lot of folks, because especially the cohort from the Gradient Boost, because a lot of folks don't necessarily have the engineering background, and like, we're embarking on this journey for the first time. So understanding exactly what it is that you need to focus on is invaluable on this journey. So thank you for sharing that.
Cool.
Daniel, from your side?
Awesome. Any questions, Ajibola, from your side? Closing question.
Yeah, something lighthearted. Do you have any like fun anecdotes from when you dealt with fraud detection in your work?
No, not really. But like, I mean, one thing that I found that was really cool, a way they defrauded the system, which I thought, because now the one thing, like, just to talk about people in fraud, like, they're very smart, eh? Like, that's not like, you can't be stupid. You can't be stupid if you want to be committing fraud. Like, they're top class intelligent guys, figuring out fraud. So what they did is they created a wallet on our website, and then so the website, what we did is we gave them money, and then based on their repayment behavior, we'll give them more and more. And then if the jump is too high, so then what they realize is they can go like this: borrow $100, or $10, pay it back; $12, pay it back; $14, pay it back; $16, pay it back; $100, leave. So then what they do in order to get the initial loan is they create this syndicate of wallets. So M-Pesa or whatever you're using, and they start transacting, like, let's say $1,000, just cycle it through all the accounts, so that it looks like all of these accounts are actually very highly active accounts, and it goes through the machine learning algorithms going like, wow, these are great accounts. And then they go into that, and then you've got like 100 or 1,000 wallets attacking your business, taking you taking you each one taking $100 out of your company. So it's very interesting working with fraudsters. But with, like, both at LX and at Juma, I have the greatest amount of respect for them, from what they think, how they think. I don't like their, like, it's not ethical or anything, but the way they execute is incredible. I have to give that.
Yeah, interesting. We can learn lessons from interesting characters and interesting personalities. There's always a lesson to learn from all sectors of society.
Yeah.
Really interesting learning at how you guys have, and how you personally have obviously navigated this very interesting and challenging field. So yeah, we do really thank you for your time. And yeah, we hope you're now part of the community, and we hope to stay connected with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much for your time, Ajibola, Emmanuel. If you guys don't have any parting words, I guess that's a wrap from us.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Sorry.
Sorry, you saying so?
Oh yeah, I just also want to say thanks for your time. It was a lot of fun chatting to you guys, and I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation in the future.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers, guys. Have a happy rest of your day.
Cheers.
Catch you guys soon. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Cool.